Good morning. I welcome all of you to this basic session on fundamentals of CSAT. CSAT is a very important part of the UPSC process, and if it is also the first step in your rejection or selection in UPSC. If you get disqualified in CSAT, if you fail in CSAT, then your GS paper 1 does not even get checked. And all the hard work that you put in case of your general studies, all of that gets wasted. Now, CSAT has an important component which is the comprehension as a subject. This is a subject which has got the greatest number of questions and they appear consistently every year. Other subjects such as basic numeracy are also important, but they are not consistent. They are unreliable because the number of questions can go up or go down in case of these subjects. There have been years in which basic numeracy had a bare 3 questions in the whole paper out of 80 questions. So, comprehension is an important area. And if you look at comprehension, then this comprehension is very different from the kind of reading comprehension that you've done back in your school days. The comprehension which appears in case of CSAT is called as evidence-based reading comprehension. You get marks for ticking the right answer and not for your understanding of the RC passage. Out here, whatever is the right answer, it should have a proof or an evidence present inside the passage. But there are variations. For example, the questions fall into 3 basic categories. They are specific questions, which are based upon a single sentence present somewhere in the passage, and the right answer is the same as the information contained in this specific sentence. And this sentence is an important one. It's called as a key sentence. You need to be good at understanding where to find the key sentence of a particular specific question, and you get these dumb, easy questions correct always, all the time, without using your brains too much. So the first category of questions just require you to understand a particular sentence which you have to find because of certain reasons. And then there are general questions, a second category of questions whose answer may not be written in a particular sentence because the answer of these general questions is based upon your understanding of the whole passage, and whatever is the right answer, that answer is based upon the whole passage and it is the focus of the whole passage. So any question which talks about what is a suitable title or a topic or a heading, or a question which asks you about the tone of the author or the attitude of the author, or with which of the following would the author agree or disagree, etc. All of these are general questions. They are those MCP questions called as main idea, central idea, primary idea kind of questions. These questions, their answer is based upon the whole passage taken together. So the way to answer a general question is different from the way you answer a specific question. Then there are perception questions. These are actually the most tricky ones, and these are the questions whose answer may not be written down in the passage. But you need a greater understanding, a greater comprehension of a bigger chunk of the passage in order to answer these questions. Some of these questions are even based upon critical reasoning. So there are 3 different kinds of questions. You need to be good at understanding the difference between them, identifying them, and doing them according to the strategy which is required. Now, because of this reason, you have, although CSAT comprehension is evidence-based reading comprehension and you need to pick up answers based upon information given in the passage, but it is not based upon your understanding of the reading comprehension passage. But in order to answer a specific question, you still have to understand the exact meaning of a key sentence while answering a specific question. Similarly, in order to answer a perception question, you possibly will have to understand a complete paragraph or 2 to handle this kind of a question. In case of general questions, you need to have a clear, holistic understanding of the whole passage in order to solve a general question, and you need to have a clear bird eye view or a holistic eye view of the whole passage as such, which means understanding is required, no doubt. Moreover, the twisted language of questions and answer choices also has to be understood perfectly well, so you need to understand that. And most of the passages will use scary, difficult language which cannot be understood at the first go as such. So the language is used in the passage and the question is purposefully kept difficult and confusing to check your levels of comprehension or understanding. There are 6 problems because of which understanding the language of comprehension passages actually becomes difficult in the first place, and we'll also look at the best solutions to these 6 problems as such. I want you to look at this particular passage to understand the challenges which are involved in case of comprehension. Please read it carefully. You can pause the video at this particular stage, although at a later stage I'm going to read it out to you also. This is a passage which came in case of UPSC CSAT 2023 paper. So it is not more difficult or less difficult than whatever appears in the exam. Please read it. Pause the video. 1, 2, 3, pause. Okay, let's start. I'll read out the passage once for you. Science by itself is not enough. There must be a force and a discipline outside the sciences to coordinate them and point to a goal. It is not possible to run a course aright when the goal itself has not been rightly placed. What science needs is philosophy, the analysis of scientific method, and the coordination of scientific purposes and results. Without this, any science must be superficial. Government suffers, precisely like science, for lack of philosophy. Philosophy bears to science the same relationship which statesmanship bears to politics, movement guided by total knowledge and perspective, as against aimless and individual seeking, just as the pursuit of knowledge becomes scholasticism when divorced from the actual needs of men and life, so the pursuit of politics becomes a destructive bedlam when divorced from science and philosophy. This passage will give you an idea about the challenges which are involved in case of comprehension. So let's see the challenges. The first problem is vocabulary. In your exam, you're going to come across difficult words, you're going to come across infrequently used words and phrases, and there will be difficult technical terms or jargon. So, if I look at examples from two passages which have already appeared in case of CSAT, then they had some words which could be challenging for a lot of students. This is from the UPSC 2023 paper, two passages from that paper. Uh, Read them, or I'll read them for you. Scholasticism, bedlam, vernal, eutrophication, parlance, connotation, skepticism, patentee, monetize, emissions, detours, biomethanation, atropine, datura, staples, monoculture, exacerbate, basin-based approach, cognitive ability, constraints. Out of them, about 10% of the words would be familiar words, others may be slightly unfamiliar to you. There may even be certain words which you've never seen before. So, if you look at your own vocabulary, then till your fifth standard, your teachers taught you new words back in school. They taught you something called as a literal or a dictionary meaning of words. So you were exposed to new words and your teachers told you the exact dictionary meaning. They gave you exercises so that you could revise them. For example, you had questions on exact meanings of words, you had questions on synonyms, antonyms, fill in the blanks, etc., close test. And all of these exercises basically encourage you to learn more and more new words along with their perfect meaning which the teacher told you. You even used to get a dictionary along with the school books at the beginning of the academic year. And all this exercise, this wonderful exercise, it stopped from somewhere around class 5th. And class 5th onward, dictionary did not remain a part of the school books which you received at the beginning of the year. And the focus of teachers upon meanings of words or building up your vocabulary, it diminished. So whenever you came across a new word, you, instead of looking into the dictionary about its exact meaning or literal meaning, you started figuring out that possibly this word should mean that particular thing. And as you use that particular word more and more, or it was used in front of you, you could figure out a contextual meaning which is not enough. Plus, there are words whose meaning you know, but those words may also have a second infrequently used meaning. And there are certain words which you have never seen in your life and may appear on the CSAT and create a problem for you. So there are four broad type of words. There are words whose literal or dictionary meaning is known to you, they will help you. There are certain infrequently used meanings of the same words which you are not aware of, and they will create a confusion because you will have a different meaning in your head when you are reading a passage. There will be certain words for which you will have a contextual meaning, but you do not know the exact meaning of those words, and that will diminish your understanding of the passage. And then there are alien words which you've never seen before in your whole life. All of this is going to bring down your understanding of the passage or the questions or the answer choices. Now, as far as vocabulary is concerned, you have to understand that the solution is to build up your vocabulary. Words that you hear infrequently and you do not know the exact literal or dictionary meaning, they create more problem, as your understanding of the sentence's meaning will go down if they appear in a sentence. This problem can be solved by going through a good word list with meaning so that you can sharpen up your understanding of relevant words. All the words which can appear in the examination, you need to go through a word list which contains them. What I've done for my students over the years is that I've prepared a list of words which have the greatest chance of appearing on your exam. This contains a lot of words which have already appeared and other words which you should know if you're preparing for civil services. Referring to this list and benefiting from this list is something which is going to not only help you in case of your CSAT, it will help you in your ability to understand what your teachers are teaching you in case of GS, or whatever you're studying in case of your books. It will help you write a better essay as well. So this word list is what I normally recommend, and there's a certain way of using this and benefiting from it, which is mentioned in case of this particular word list. I'll be sharing it with you. So apart from this word list, you have to be very clear that a lot of alien words that you have never encountered in your life can also be understood if you have an idea about rupturing long words, difficult words. Almost all the difficult long words, they are basically comprising of three parts: an initial suffix, there's a middle root, and there's a prefix. And you need to study how to rupture a particular big word and identify its suffixes, roots, and prefixes. And you should know almost all the roots so that you can possibly understand the passage while you're reading it, and you can understand it on the go. Sometimes for you to understand a difficult term may just be not required. A particular difficult term may just be a technical term or a name, and you're not supposed to be aware about the meaning of that word, or it will not help you in your understanding of the passage for the purpose of answering questions. Say, for example, if you look at the word Freudenschad, it basically means pleasure derived from the misfortune of others, but you do not need to know this particular word. In case of this particular list, there's a technical word here which is datura. You are not supposed to know this particular word. There's atropine, which some of you may know. A rare person coming from a biology or a medicine background may have an idea about atropine, but most of you would not know about it, and you are not supposed to know about it. So there are certain words which have to be ignored and to be taken as technical terms, while there are other words whose meaning should be very clear to you. You should be clear about meaning of words such as bedlam, constraints, parlance, connotations, skepticism, patentee, monetized, emissions, detours, exacerbate, etc. Let's look at the second problem now. The second problem in case of comprehension is the presence of complicated information. So if I look at this particular part of the passage, it says it is certain that seditions, wars, and contempt or breach of laws are not so much to be imputed to the wickedness of the subjects as to the bad state of dominion. For men are not born fit for citizenship, but must be made so. Besides, men's natural passions are everywhere the same, and if wickedness more prevails and more offences are committed in one commonwealth than in another, it is certain that the former has neither enough pursued the end of unity nor framed its laws with sufficient forethought, and that therefore it has failed in making quite good its right as a commonwealth. So when you see this kind of a complicated information, the solution to handle and get comfortable with this information is that you should be somebody who reads extensively, reads a lot, and reads widely. When I say read widely, it basically means reads various different subjects. You're already doing a lot of this particular work during your preparation of general studies. Do not limit yourself to books which are recommended in school or in college syllabus. And you need to read fiction, non-fiction books, editorials of newspapers such as The Hindu, and some reading websites such as aeon.com. Then there are magazines such as Frontline, which use the kind of language which appears in case of CSAT and the kind of language is expected out of you. There are magazines such as Yojana, Kurukshetra. There are a lot of white papers and green papers which are released by the Indian government. You need to have a look at them, and you can see that there are three words here which I have highlighted, put them in bold: The Hindu, Frontline, Yojana. De rigueur, must, all three of them. Plus, there are books written by university professors at the end of their careers, and they're philosophical abstract authors from the Scandinavian countries. These books help you a lot in handling complicated language because you get comfortable with complicated language once you've read these kind of books. Then let's come to a third problem. The third problem is the presence of difficult and erudite English language, the language spoken by people who are very well educated. So if I look at this single sentence out here, picked up from one of the CSAT papers, it says the conceptualization of landscape as a geometric object first occurred in Europe and is historically related to the European conceptualization of the organism, particularly the human body, as a geometric object with parts having a rational, three-dimensional organization and integration. When you read it for the first time in your life during your initial preparation, you will not pick up any information out of this particular sentence. But these are the kind of sentences which I use on CSAT. This is the kind of language which somebody who's very well educated would speak and would be comfortable with. You have to get comfortable with this kind of language also. So What's the solution out here? The solution is again that you need to develop a sense of English grammar, first of all, which among many things ensures that you're familiar with different types of sentence structures, simple, complex, compound sentences, and complex compound sentences, and how phrases play a role in elaborating meaning of various parts. This particular sentence is difficult to understand because it is loaded up with phrases which explain some other information present already in the sentence. It is a sentence which is not a simple sentence, and people who are very well educated, they have a tendency to use a fair mix of simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex compound sentences. Rather, they will write less number of simple and complex sentences. They'll have more sentences which are compound and complex compound. So, if you are sound grammatically, you will be able to handle such sentences in a better manner. Also, you've got to read extensively and widely, read fiction and non-fiction books, editorials of newspapers such as The Hindu, Indian Express, and some reading websites to get comfortable reading from a computer monitor. Also, this is required. This is the solution. Then there is an even bigger issue. Even if you understand the difficult English language which is present directly, whatever is written there, rhetorical, literal meaning of those words, then there's another issue, and that is the figurative meaning of those sentences and those words. Presence of rhetorical elements and devices in these sentences. Now, figurative meaning is used by authors which may clash with the meaning of sentence that you have figured out. When you look at a particular sentence and you figure out one meaning according to the words present there, that is the literal meaning of the sentence. But there may be a second meaning of that particular sentence, which is a figurative meaning, which you need to understand. If you look at the usage of the word thank you, a thank you may be spoken out of gratitude and appreciation because somebody has done something good for you, or it can also be used to shoo away somebody who's despicable. Then the passages which are argumentative, analytical, and abstract passages, they will use rhetorical elements and devices also. Still, you are expected to figure out the meaning of the passages, questions, and answer options, not only the literal meaning, but also the figurative meaning of all of those questions and the passages. So, what is the solution out here? The solution for presence of figurative meaning, rhetorical elements, and devices is that you need to learn all the rhetorical appeals, the rhetorical elements, the rhetorical devices. You need to master up argumentation and critical reasoning. Critical reasoning is also part of your CSAT syllabus. It's a major component of your CSAT syllabus. Then, if I come to the fifth problem, then there is something which is called as artistic freedom or artistic license or creative license. Some people call it a poetic license also. Authors use the creative license to use words, phrases, and expressions without respecting their literal or dictionary meanings. And you've got to be good enough to figure that out. So, when this thing happens, then you need to learn something called as paraphrasing. So, what is paraphrasing? Ability to convert a complicated, difficult English sentence into simpler sentences which your brain can understand better. And you do this paraphrasing by using a simpler structure for the same sentences which you're reading, use simpler terms, fewer words, rearrange parts of the sentence so the difficult looking English sentence is converted into a simpler sentence which your brain can handle. I'll give you a small example of this. Read this particular sentence which appeared on the exam. It says, in general, they reported the ability of the compounds to compete at the receptors correlates with their ability to stimulate locomotion in the mouse. That is, the higher their capacity to bind at receptors, the higher their ability to stimulate locomotion. Now, when students came across this sentence, obviously they had a major problem understanding it. But in order to solve the question, what was required was that they had to understand very clearly that after paraphrasing, this sentence basically means that if a compound binds strongly, it will stimulate locomotion more, or it will stimulate locomotion to a greater extent. This is paraphrasing. So, this is something which you have to be good at doing. You have to do this on the go when you're reading the passage. Paraphrasing is one integral skill that you will have to develop to handle the difficult language which is present in comprehension passages as such. Sixth problem, and this is a very big problem, and this is a problem which has to be understood after you've possibly learned decision making, after you've learned, because in the process of learning decision making of CSAT, you develop the right perception. If once you've studied ethics and you've done the case studies in your GS paper 4, then you start developing the right perception as such. So what is the perception which is required? All aptitude tests, including the CSAT, they used evidence-based reading comprehension rules. We know that. Moreover, CSAT is a civil services aptitude test. So the required answers have to be molded or modified or chosen according to the attitude expected of a civil servant. So the kind of answers which will look good to a civil servant are the best of answers, even if there is evidence-based reading comprehension, even then. So these questions are sheer role play questions, and you have to play the role of a civil servant. And with that attitude and with that perception, you need to read the passage, read the questions, and answer choices as such. So, as a civil servant, let's see what is the role of a civil servant. The role of a civil servant is upon mitigating problems, decreasing the pain of the problems which the people are facing. Their role is to solve problems, and they have to be focused on the development of the country while they are struggling with the first two things. So, your answers need to focus upon mitigating problems, solving problems, and be focused upon development of the country. The required attitude is prescriptive by nature. So, if I look at it, you have to take care that the solution to the problem of perception is that your primary focus has to be on choosing answers that are explicitly supported by the passage information. At the same time, the underlying perception or attitude while choosing answers has to be guided by your understanding of the holistic picture of the whole passage, on mitigating problems, on solving problems, on identifying opportunities for development, and being proactive, optimistic, prescriptive. And this is something which is really required, because unless and until you're optimistic about solving problems, you will not be able to handle the problems as such. So civil servant in the first place has to be somebody who is optimistic, who is proactive, somebody who does things without somebody reminding him to do those things. So solving problems or looking for opportunities for development is the perception that you need to have, and you need to be prescriptive when you are picking up answers. We'll come across about 60% of the questions on CSAT comprehension which require a certain perception. Only then you can pick up the right answer. To help students prepare for the CSAT in a better manner, we are starting the CSAT Foundation online course 2026. This is a course which is in the 16th year of its reiteration and improvement. And in this particular course, you will undergo comprehensive CSAT preparation, ensure that you qualify the CSAT confidently while balancing your GS preparation, and we need to give a lot of time to GS preparation. That's also a requirement. The live online classes are conducted in the evening at 8 p.m. so that they do not clash with your GS classes. And classes are conducted a week, 3 days in a week for 3 whole months in the evening at 8 p.m. so they don't clash with your GS classes as such. And for an effective revision, even after 3 months, you will still remain in touch with us because of regular practice exercises, tests, test discussions, and some classes as required by some students. Feel free to take extra help from your teachers to clear any doubts or confusions during the program. Your teacher would be me, Mansoor Agha, with a teaching experience of about 29 years. I help students prepare for CSAT, GS answer writing, and essay paper preparation. The courses for the CSAT Foundation course are commencing from Monday 17th of November onwards. As a follow-up to this particular session, in later sessions, we'll learn more details about the strategies for handling the 45 different type of comprehension questions which appear on CSAT. Individual sessions upon the various 45 kind of questions, and we'll solve actual questions that have already appeared in previous year UPSC CSAT examinations. That will give us a better idea, and we'll benefit from those PYQs. If you found this video session helpful, then you can subscribe this YouTube channel, which is IvyLeague Career Services, so that you can automatically get the future instructional videos that I plan to release on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. I also want you to share this video with your fellow aspirants so that others can also benefit. Thank you.